Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Monday, September 19th Board of Commissioners meeting. At 4 o'clock, we had a pretty lengthy work session on a couple items on the solid waste curbside collection, lobbying services, and the Currituck County access permit, and some sheriff vehicle items. Right now, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and our first item is the invocation and pledge of allegiance, and I'd ask Commissioner Jarvis if she would lead us tonight.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for this beautiful county. Let us be grateful and really take in the beauty that you surround us with daily. I ask you, Lord, for your guidance tonight. Surround us with your wisdom. Help us do thy will, and hope that the county's business can be the business of you. Go with us tonight as we go home in different directions. Surround us with your traveling mercies. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Jarvis. The next item is our ethics awareness and conflict of interest reminder, and I'd ask Commissioner Kitty Etheridge if she would go ahead and read that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to GS 153A-44, a commissioner has a duty to vote on matters coming before the board, but may be excused from voting on issues involving the commissioner's own financial interests, official conduct, or on matters on which the commissioner is prohibited from voting under GS 14-234, 153A-340 parentheses G, or 160A 388 parentheses E parentheses 2, in accordance with Chapter 2, Division 3 of the Currituck County Code of Ordinance. It is the duty of every commissioner to avoid both conflict of interest and appearance of conflict. Does any commissioner have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the Board of Commissioners in this meeting? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict.
Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Etheridge, for that. The next item is going to be the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes, or can I get a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next item is our public comment. This is a section where we allow individuals to come before the board to speak on any matter, discussions, good, bad, whatever is on your mind this evening, and this board will listen diligently with no interruptions. We do limit the public to 3 minutes, and you would see a green light come on when you start, yellow light giving you 30 seconds, and when you see the red light, not Red Rider, the red light come on, please start wrapping up your thoughts and comments. And this evening, I have one individual signed up, and that is Ms. Cameron Kugler. If you could come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Cameron Kugler, and I live at 103 Charleston Drive in Grandy. I come to you tonight as the Currituck Travel and Tourism Director. Recently, Alex Perry, our Marketing Communications Director, and I traveled to the Southeast Tourism Society Conference in Concord, North Carolina. And while we were there, two things occurred. One, Alex got his, what we call the Tourism Marketing Professional Certification, which is 3 years of 1-week classes. So he completed that, and he's now certified. He's a TMP. And also, while we were there, we entered into two award categories. One was the Partnership Award for the African American Experience, and the other was for Best Marketing. Well, we won STS Shining Example Award for partnership. So we were very pleased. Now, STS is made up of 13 Southeastern member states and Washington, D.C., so we had quite a lot of competition. Our next award, which we're very, very proud of, was for our marketing initiative, Find Yourself Here, which was for Kerala. And we won the Best Marketing Award for budgets over 500,000. So I just want to say that I have the best tourism team ever, and these awards belong to them. So I congratulate them for all of their hard work, and we were just so honored to get these awards. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kugler. Just one, Ms. Kugler, question. So when they called out Currituck County, did everybody know where Currituck was?
Well, you know, we're one of the smaller destinations. We're competing against New Orleans and all these big tourism destination organizations. So when they called out Currituck, there, except for North Carolina, my North Carolina contingent was like, they were just over the moon. But some of the other states were like, Currituck? Like, they won?
Where's that?
So we were really, really pleased.
Congratulations. Good job. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no one else signed up for public comment. Is there anyone that showed up late that didn't have a chance to sign up that would wish to speak for the board? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting and move on to our commissioner reports. And I'm going to start off to my right here this evening with Commissioner Owen Etheridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to see all of y'all. It seems like we've been apart for so long. Right now, in our country, we're probably the most divisive we've ever been. But we've had an event occur in the world over the last 2 weeks with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. And watching the people of England and the world has come together, united, in purpose of paying respects to the Queen. I think the French president said she might be England's queen, but to all the rest of us, she was the Queen. And I wish that we could take some of that spirit that we have seen epitomized over the last week as hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people stood in line for 10, 12 hours just to pay their respects. And I wish that would be something that our country could grasp back a hold of and come back together. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner McCord.
Second what he said on that. That was a very true statement. Lots of events coming up in the county. Aviation Day, our airport director's here, William, is the 24th of September. That was a great event last year. Don't miss it. 10 to 3, 10 to 4, 10 to 3. This year, first on October 8th at the high school, we're having a community night. The sheriff's office is, where we have bounce houses, food trucks, all kinds of different vendors. It's a free event unless you buy food, obviously, then you'd have to pay for your food. But tons of vendors. That's October 8th from 4 to 8. Following week, Mayock Fire Department does their community day. Another great event. Bulls and Barbecue. Cameron was here. That's a really good event the county puts on at the Rural Center. Christmas parade's first Friday of December. Christmas is not that far away. And we had a great summer. The traffic, I would say the traffic slowed down, but this weekend was crazy. And I know everybody's been out there driving on the roads. We had a great summer at the beach. Lots of crazy stuff as usual. Schools are back in sessions. Remember, abide by your school zones and all that stuff. And I tell you, this year, I don't know, I guess because people complain about so much. I didn't see the complaints on Facebook. I think the school did a really good job on the buses, on staying up on everything. So it's either that or maybe that didn't pop in my news feed on social media. So that was a good thing as well. But like I said, thankful to live here. We live in a great place and keep on moving forward. That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Gordon and Vice Chairman Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to do a preemptive, at least, strike, if you will. I had the pleasure to be invited as the FIAB commissioner to a town hall that Commissioner Jarvis set up, and that was with her community to talk about volunteer fire operations, how they interact, and how things are handled. A wide variety of issues. I think the meeting was scheduled for an hour and a half. I think we went 2.5, or more. But it was a great opportunity to actually get out and communicate to, residents what's going on behind the scenes. So, typically there is more going on than just really what you think or what you're told. So it was a wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much for putting that on. I hope I hope you got positive feedback with it, but I'm sure you'll address that as you get there. The second thing I want to bring up, and I am very concerned about the state of the wild horse herd in Corolla or Corova. In conversations with Commissioner White, and I don't know that this is documented, but at least it was his understanding that we're down to 6 fertile mares capable of foaling. That plus, the recent pulling off of the beach, specifically 2 mares that were, I think, in trash, something to that effect, and then another one that got injured, leaves me very concerned that the horses that Currituck County has called home for hundreds of years, being at risk for sustainability. I know we've talked about wanting to address this during a work session, and I'm certainly open and to see that. But I would like, and I don't know that demand is appropriate, but I would like a presentation by the Wild Horse Fund as to what their philosophy is, what they're doing. I would like to, for interest in the interest of public information, I'd like to know how many horses we still have on the Outer Banks, how many are fertile still in the Outer Banks, how many are at the Grandy facility, and what those status are. I know we did have a foal born. That's exciting. But depending on what those numbers are, I think in the interest of transparency and in the interest of this county, we spend a lot of money, and they mean a lot to not only Currituck County, but to the state of North Carolina. And we have a vested interest in their care, and I'd like to have that put on the agenda as soon as possible. And that's all I have, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you, Vice Chairman. I'm just going to reiterate the fire departments. I mean, it's been a busy summer, but just keep in mind, we're getting into fire season now with fireplaces. Make sure you have your chimneys checked, your systems, support your fire departments as much as you can. They need your support. We've had house fires all year long. Traffic will slow down eventually, but it's still busy out there. A lot of accidents last week. You see a lot of terrible wrecks on the highway. I almost saw one this morning heading to Corolla. The guy, for some reason, didn't know where he was going. He decided to make a quick turn and wouldn't even need to look what was coming at him. And I thought for sure he was going to get a head on, but just be careful out there. And last thing, just I know I get ridiculed a lot. I have since I've been a commissioner about being in the band. And, but I would like to let everybody know that September 30th is homecoming at the high school football game. And this year, the band has decided to do an alumni event. And they've invited any past band members, no matter what year you graduated. I graduated in '82, to don a shirt and bring your instrument. And they've already sent me the sheet music. So you'll have your chairman out there on the 30th with the band, with his trombone, playing sheet music with the rest of the band members, Mr. Beaumont.
Dr. Lutz, if you see a tent set up by the football field, that's chairman payment. He's going to get there early.
So I will be out there with the band. First alumni gathering. There's a couple other band members I was associated with back in the day. They're going to be there too, so it's going to be a fun event. And I hope I don't mess up the music too bad, but I haven't played that trombone in many, many years. So anyways, that's going to be exciting. I'm excited to be involved and just to show the commissioners, yes,
Mr.
I was
Chairman.
actually in the band.
I think Dr. Luke ought to request that you play a solo.
I can still play my solo from Summertime. That's the music Summertime.
Could he say one thing too about the band? I thought it was pretty neat. And this is not this actually. I saw where the band, our high school band, and other bands got to play at the East Carolina game. That was something new that I guess they've been doing recently. So that was a big thing.
Oh yes. So
we just like giving Mike a hard time for the
right,
record.
so,
It's nothing.
So I'm going to back it up somehow on the 30th of September. So anyways, that's all I had to say. Just if you want to come see me, I'll be out there with the rest of the band members. They have a fun time.
Can you lip sync a trombone?
You can air trombone. No, anyways, that's all I have for this evening, so thank you, and I hope to see you all out there on the 30th. Commissioner White, you're up next.
All right, thank you, sir.
sir.
I'm going to be a bit long-winded tonight. We haven't seen each other in a while, and a couple things have happened in my world. Most recently, we had a Tourism Advisory Board meeting, and I have to say it was one of the best meetings we've had in a very, very long time. A lot of stuff was discussed, and I'm going to go through a little bit about what we talked about in that meeting. I've spoken about the need to get away from Currituck Outer Banks advertising and go towards Corolla advertising. That's where the tourists are coming. That's what they know. We had a bunch of discussion about that, and so tourism is going to start moving towards advertising Corolla NC versus Currituck Outer Banks. And Tamara wants to bring in some professionals to help her make that shift as they go through it. They're also looking, I brought up a couple points about looking at the end users. So when people were here coming through, driving through, looking at billboards, for instance, or the print advertising we do down here, or the TV commercials we do down here, those people are already here. We don't need to tell them that they should stay in Corolla. To some degree we do, because they may be staying in Dare County. But the point is to get anybody that's on the Outer Banks, period, up to Corolla. And so they're looking at making changes to some of their to meet some of that demand and start advertising for things to do up here, for instance, rather than just a picture of a horse. Well, what does that mean to me? Or maybe the Quirk and Craft thing, and play with some of that advertising and try and really entice the end user to come to Corolla. We have food here, spend the day here, go to the lighthouse here. Some of that we do for ourselves. We advertise our own services, but we're not pushing people towards ideas of things that they can do here, and it's looking at different industries, whether it's the food industry, hospitality industry, whatever that may be. So they're going to look at making some changes on the end use stuff. One of the most negative impacts is just dealing with tourists here. If you're on the mainland on a Saturday, you can't leave your house, and but those tourists that come here, they generated $473 million in direct tourist spending in Currituck County as a whole. Most of it, of course, occurred in Corolla. Quite a bit happens over here, though. Over $100 million in worker income and paychecks. A lot of that money gets spent secondary in our marketplace by the people that live here and work here. And what really is impressive is how much that means to us in tax revenue to each household. So each household in the county gets a $3,100, a little over $3,100 savings in what they could have been paying in local and state taxes that's deferred by all the money that's collected from the tourists, and sales tax, occupancy tax, and other things that are in there. So the headache that you have to put up with transpires to about $3,100 on average for a household unit here in Currituck County, and savings that you would have had to pay out, possibly to pay for other services, goods and services. So if there's anything you can take positive out of it, take that away from it. We also, just want a reminder, we have the event grant program still in place. If you have an idea for an event that you want to put on, as long as you're bringing people in from outside the county has put aside money out of occupancy tax to help pay for that event. We've had the Peach Festival do it over in Knott's Island. They have come up with a different event now. The winery over there is doing a Peach Blossom Festival and some kind of a fall festival over there now. We've had several other things occur. I know the winery, John uses that to do a food truck rodeo. So there's different things that are going on that you can use that money for. And I would encourage anyone out there that's had an idea about an event they want to do to come and talk to us and see if we can help you out. The biggest expense is, going to be covered hopefully by the county, and allow you to do that and hopefully be successful and do something great that everyone in the county can benefit from, and those coming into the county would benefit from, because as they pass through the county, they spend money at other places in this county. What else? One of the things was brought up, which we've all talked about, is the need for employee housing. And having to do that, and we don't want to build a bunch of apartments so they end up with housing for Dare County, for instance. Then they become our residents in that process. The reality is we've got to have more discussion on it, but one of the interesting things we were talking about was we've heard that we have all the shoreline here, and we have miles and miles and miles and miles of shoreline, but we have very little area dedicated to general business on our sounds. And there is an economic opportunity there. We can't, maybe a hotel would come in and take down some property on the sound and do a resort conference center there. And we don't have anything for them to do that in. We have one that we approved, the marina down by Kilmarlock, but wherever that's at, it just stalled and went away. So it's just some food for thought as we look at stuff. We just approved a new land use map, but that map was set by a different board originally, and we kind of adopted it, and we made a few little changes to it, but we really didn't talk about that aspect of Currituck County's development. And is it an area we want to delve into or not? Or do we just save all the shoreline for residential completely? So just some food for thought. It came up in that discussion, and we have never talked about that before, so it was an interesting take on our GB stuff. And Paul, to your point about the wild horses, I have a lot of stuff about that for you tonight. I sit on the wild horses governing board as an individual. They wanted a commissioner on their board that could help foster relationships between the county and the fund. Several years ago, they had a lot of problems. There was a lot of animosity, and it dealt with who was running the fund more than anything. So those have gone away for the most part, and I think we have a great relationship with them now. And along those lines, in talking with Commissioner Beaumont at my house a couple weeks ago, I related to you that there are part of the management program. The way the Wild Horse Fund works is through a management agreement between U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the state of North Carolina, Currituck County, and of course themselves. They came together and have the Wild Horse Management Agreement. That agreement is the Bible for them. It covers everything. Well, in that agreement, years ago, we had too many horses. There were only supposed to be 60 horses here. We had somewhere between 120 and 130 horses. In that process, they started darting mares with PZP. Well, they were darting them to make them basically as a contraceptive method, and in that process ended up making several of the mares sterile. So we found out through genetic testing that they actually only have 2 genetic lines producing foals right now, and there's about 6 mares so far that have foaled. So that's what Commissioner Beaumont was talking about, was that there are all these 2 bloodlines. Now, we brought in a stallion from Shackelford Banks, Gus. He's here to help with that genetic diversity, to hopefully get a hold of a harem and have a mare in there that's producing and go from there. So we're also still in talks with them about this to hopefully bring in another horse and again increase that genetic diversity within our herd. So there are things in place to help deal with that. But I do want to take a few minutes to go through this Wild Horse Management Agreement, and this thing is available to the public. It is a public document. Excuse me. The first is a vision statement. The Wild Horse Advisory Board is committed to managing the wild horse population in a manner that establishes a sustainable equilibrium between the wild horse population, development, wildlife, and the environment. And one of the ticks under there is preserving the free-roaming nature and habitat of these horses. So that's just in the vision statement. There's several other things in there that go with that, but they want to keep them wild and free. That's obvious in the vision statement from this. I'll go through pages here and take a couple excerpts out just so people understand what this document really is and what it really means. The Coral Wild Horse Fund has their own mission statement in it. And that mission is to protect, preserve, and responsibly manage the herd of wild colonial Spanish Mustangs roaming freely on the northernmost Currituck Outer Banks, and to promote the continued preservation of this land as a permanent sanctuary for horses designated as the state horse, defined as our cultural treasure by the state of North Carolina. And then it goes on to talk about employees. Page 43. The reserve program recognizes the strong public sentiment associated with Coral Wild Horse herd and will work with all parties to develop and implement a feral horse management plan that will protect the natural habitats of the reserve while protecting the horse health and public safety. The reserve acknowledges the need for the Crawl Wild Horse Fund to enter the Currituck Outer Banks Reserve for the purposes of managing the wild horse herd in accordance with this plan. This includes monitoring, darting, and other activities as necessary, provided that impacts to reserve habitats are kept to a minimum. Reserve personnel shall be notified and consulted in advance of work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all the parties have come together and basically said, we understand what's got to go on with these things. They're giving the Wild Horse Fund permission to do what they do. Page 40. Yeah, that's not really that important. But anyway, as we go through this, there are things to talk about veterinarian care, how to deal with that. They are outlined in this document and spelled out with record keeping. We know how many doses of PCP were shot out, the vaccine lot numbers, all that kind of stuff. Dates of inoculation. We have tested bloodlines for these horses now, and we can actually tell now who's who, what family is what family, and where they have progressed over the years. So who foaled who. Under veterinary emergencies, there's stuff talking about the vet and how they have to interact with a veterinarian and have a veterinarian deal with everything, especially when it comes to having to pull these horses off the beach. There's an adoption program. Many people think that they're just taking them off the beach willy-nilly. Well, that's just not the case. They're only taken out under veterinary care when the veterinarian tells them to do that, unless they can't get a hold of them and it's a dire situation. But generally speaking, they've been able to get a hold of a veterinarian in these cases. This adoption program basically spells out what they'll do and gives them the authority to grant these adoptions, and it even spells the fees out for that. Now, they gentle the horses, they bring them over to the farm, and they get them basically set up to eat domestic foods and get them vaccinated, inoculated, and everything else that you would do with a horse. It even speaks to what they have to do when they remove a horse. The whole last section of this document, from basically page 62 to 70, is nothing but dealing with the fund and what they are allowed to do, and it spells out every single thing that they're allowed to do. You mentioned that we had a couple horses pulled off. Well, we've had one pulled off in the last week that had pitheosis. Pitheosis basically attacks right around the hoof. It's from walking through water that is contaminated, and it's basically a flesh-eating bacteria. They have to be removed and taken. They're taken to NC State. They cut that material out of the leg or the affected area, and then hit them with a bunch of antibiotics, basically, to get them healthy, if they can get them healthy. There are cases where that's too far gone and they cannot bring that horse back, so they'll euthanize the horse. We have a foal that was part of the same harem that they are looking for now to bring off the beach, that was just born this year. They have witnessed the sores on that horse's legs, and so that foal will have to be pulled off if they can find it. They've been looking for several days now and can't seem to find them. They think they've moved back into the marsh area. So that's what's going on. You'll see that on Facebook. The Wild Horse Fund tries to be transparent when they do this, the reasons for doing it, and the circumstances under which they had to be removed. And NC State has partnered with us to help us out to get these horses healthy and hopefully promote keeping them going. There's also been a rumor that there is an off-site place to breed with these horses. That rumor's been going around for years. There was a former board member on the Crawl Wild Horse Fund that adopted several mares and stallions back when they had too many horses under the old management agreement at 60 horses. He took several of those home with him. They were fertile, and he does breed them, but he does not sell them off as banker ponies. He's also mixed those with other breeds. He's playing around with horse breeds, basically. So, and I remarked to Paul when he was at the house that I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing to have the species alive somewhere else outside of the Outer Banks. It is what it is. There's endangered species everywhere that they do that with. So, but nothing can be further from the truth. The Horse Fund is not removing horses for any reason other than they have to be removed. And it about kills the herd manager every time she has to do this. You can see it in her face that she wants to keep them wild and free. And to that end, the fund is now buying land or lots or whatever they can, every opportunity they can. We saw them last year come before us to get a tax abatement on one of the parcels they own. We have since picked up, I believe, 3 or 4 more lots. And we're trying to put them in areas where we know that the horses hang out, move, graze, do whatever. So we're doing that as we speak, just as opportunities become available and money becomes available, they put that towards that. Paul, you want to know about how many horses there are? There's a little over 100 right now. The last aerial count they did this spring, I believe, was 112. They've had a few they've had to pull off. So we're somewhere in that range. There's anywhere from 120 to 130 that are allowed to stay out there as part of the Wild Horse Management Agreement. And other than that, the only other news from Lake Wobegon was going over to meet with the Corolla Civic Association. I came to speak to them, I guess, about 10 days ago. And the number one topic for them, as you can probably guess, is doing beach nourishment. I told them that we would maybe take that idea up, but first we needed to finish the final phase of our study of the beach, which will be presented to us either late this fall or at our retreat, whenever that may be. We haven't set that date yet. Following that is when we would have discussions about how to proceed from that point forward when we have all the data in front of us to make an informed decision. Other than that, I just filled them on kind of what's going on around the county, but that was obviously the main topic of discussion. So just want to let the board know, I'd emailed you and the public know that I have talked to them, and going from there. That's it for me tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner White. Commissioner Etheridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Risk Management Board of Trustees held its fall retreat last week at the Outer Banks. I serve as a trustee, and it was my honor to host the meeting and showcase beautiful Currituck County. The Board of Trustees are county commissioners and county managers from throughout our great state who oversee the risk management pools that offer workmen's compensation and liability and property coverage for counties and related entities. Members of the pool enjoy comprehensive and affordable coverage specifically designed for local government exposure. The risk management addresses policy issues around county liability, and its ultimately goal is to help counties manage the risk so they'll have a savings to the taxpayers of the county. Today, of the 100 counties in North Carolina, 71 are members in one or both of the pools. At our meeting last week, we had approximately 60 staff members and vendors present, and I heard nothing but great compliments about our county. And this doesn't happen without a lot of hard work to make it a success. I'd like to thank our chairman, Mike Payman, and county manager, Ike McCree, who came down on Wednesday for our welcoming reception. A special thanks to Commissioner White for the Wild Horse Tours, Clark Twitty for his talk and book raffle, Megan at the Lighthouse, and a big thanks goes out to our tourism director, and I hate that she left, Tamron, and her staff. She went out of her way to make sure everyone felt welcome and enjoyed their time with us. Tamron told me that she wanted to make sure that I would become a superstar hostess, and she certainly tried, but I want to say the superstars all work in the tourism department. I can't thank everyone enough, and all I've heard from people as they left the county was they couldn't wait to come back. It was one of the best retreats they had ever attended. And that's all I have about the retreat, but we also have the Currituck County Farm Day, which will be held on Saturday, October the 1st from 12 to 4 at the Extension Office. This is a great time for people to come out and see that not only do we have tourism in our county, but we have a lot of farmers too. And it's a wonderful activity day for children and people, so make sure you try to come out. Again, that's October the 1st from 12 to 4 at the Extension Office. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Etheridge. And lastly, Commissioner Jarvis.
Thank you. Paul mentioned the meeting. I want to start by saying a big thank you to our county manager, Ike McCree, for suggesting and helping me organize a meeting with my homeowners association on Wednesday to discuss fire protection services in Lower Currituck. The meeting was very well attended. In fact, I worried we were going to run out of space. It was so well attended. And one of the reasons for the meeting, we had a neighbor that lost their house. Our neighbors lost their house to a fire back in June. In addition to Mr. McCree presenting information and professionally answering questions, we had Chief Melton, we had Volunteer Service and Recruitment Director Chris Bailey, Utilities Director Will Rumsey, and of course our ex officio on the FIAB, Commissioner Paul Beaumont. And they all just did a great job. There was no soothing some of the hurt feelings of the homeowner. Of course, they did lose everything, but I think the majority of my neighbors were satisfied and understood fire services much better than before the meeting. I also want to thank Lorraine Fitchett, who set up and then stayed late. We had to physically move people out to get them out of the building so she could go home. But I want to share 3 takeaways from that meeting. First of all, our volunteer firefighters are dedicated public servants who jump at the opportunity to help. And I thank each and every one of them who respond to fires and accidents up the county. 2, volunteerism is on the decline, and it's not just Currituck County, it's all over the United States. Many people that used to be on tractors and able to respond to fires simply work out of the county, or we have such busy lives that it's not feasible for them to volunteer. And finally, new ideas and new components are necessary to shore up and support our fire services here in the county. We must work together with our volunteer fire departments, our FIAB, our Board of Commissioners to find feasible ways to better protect the lives and property of our citizens. And finally, I want to say a huge thank you to NCDOT. They obviously are listening to me, and I am thankful.
And your constituents.
And my constituents. We still have an organized campaign for the NCDOT website, but they have placed a camera at my request at the intersection of 158 and Edgewater Road. I know they're seeing all that we see, and it is my hope that this sparks even more conversations about how we protect the lives of our citizens in Lower Currituck. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jarvis. Next, we have our county manager's report.
Just quickly, Mr. Chairman, there have been a number of good meetings since we were last together. Of course, the Tourism Advisory Board that Commissioner White spoke about, that was indeed a very good meeting, and I thought very productive, and look forward to more good things coming out of that group. Also, Commissioner Jarvis's meeting that she arranged with her homeowners association, I thought that was an excellent meeting and a good example of how we as county officials can get out into the community and help the citizens understand their local government and how it works and how it works to make their lives better to the extent that we have the authority to do so. And so certainly offer the opportunity to go out with me or any other county officials for similar kind of events around the county. And then lastly, with the lead of Commissioner White, the county attorney, Rachel Anderson, Public Works Operations Manager, and I met with a group of folks from the 4x4 area about solid waste collection and disposal issues up on the North Beach. And so I think from that meeting there will be coming to you in the next number of months some modifications to the county's ordinances to help improve the manner in which solid waste is collected, stored, and disposed of on the North Beach. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Next is our county attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I attended the county attorney's conference at Wrightsville Beach the end of August, and that was wonderful. I thought all the topics were very good, and also I got to see other county attorneys, some that are really close to us, some that I went to law school with, so that was really neat, and made some connections there. I'm still working on quite a bit of amendments to our ordinance. One tonight we'll be talking about, but more things on the animal ordinance and some stuff with the beach. There's been a lot of public records requests that I've been working on. Also, just continuing to get up to speed on things, litigation matters. I met with our county engineer for an extensive period of time about the wastewater treatment plant in Moyoc. That's a big issue. And then I met with Michelle Perry on Friday about the ABC store site. They're just getting me up to speed, and so now I have a much better understanding of what's going on there. And like the county manager was talking about, I met with them for the solid waste collection in the 4x4 area, and then after, he showed me around some of the main Corolla sites that we deal with on a daily basis. So that was really great, and I appreciated that. So that's all of that.
Okay. Thank you. And one last item, I just want to remind the public out there that the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education will be having a joint meeting this Thursday evening. I believe it starts at 5:30, I think it starts. It's going to be at the new public safety facility upstairs on the second floor. It's the public welcome to attend if you'd like. We try to get the two boards together periodically to discuss items and have some communication dialogue. So that'll be this Thursday evening. And next on the agenda is the administrative reports. And this evening we have our Currituck County Regional Airport Manager, William Nelson, who's going to be giving us an update.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Let's see if I can get a PowerPoint going here. It's quick. It's not much to tell you, but it's something. So just to give a little information to the public, I did get the chance in the retreat that we had with our public there to share some of this, and they really enjoyed it, I think, so I wanted to share it for everyone else. So Currituck Regional Airport is the closest airport to the Outer Banks with the longest runway. That's our slogan when people call us and ask why, should we fly in there? This is why. We're the closest airport to the longest runway. There are other airports that are closer, but their runways are too short to handle the jets that we have come in, which I'm going to show you some of those a little bit later. We're 5,500 foot by 150 wide. That's extremely appetizing to all the jets and the small airplane owners that are flying in as well. So the type of traffic we get: private, corporate, international, military, and flight training. So the international, we can't bring them in, but we can send them out, and we do. We send them out all the time. We sent one out to Germany just a few months ago, straight from Currituck.
Wow.
So we can do it. We've got the runway to make it happen. So just a little bit about our team. So you'll see, only full-time employee we have is myself. And then I've got a great team of part-time employees that work. It shows you what days they work. Glenn Brinkley, Dale Engelbretson, Gil Cahill, Austin Belch, William Deaton, Grayson Pierce, and Richard Todd. So my last three there, there's three there, and then Mr. Todd's been with us for a long time, but Austin Belch, William Deaton, and Grayson Pierce, they're all students of Elizabeth City State University. Over the last 2 years, we've partnered with Elizabeth City State to bring us interns. So this is a great way for me to hire employees, because you'd think, gosh, how hard is it to work at an airport? What do they do during the day? Well, we manage the airfield. All the maintenance comes to us. All the grass that gets cut out there comes down to us. And then the hardest part is dealing with customers. We do that all day long. We're dealing with people that are flying in millions of dollars worth of jets. So you do have to be intelligent to do this job. It's not easy to fuel a jet. You one screw up and you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. So training is my hardest thing. You just can't bring someone in and say, there's the gas truck, here's the keys, fill them up. There's some training involved with it. So it's really nice to get those students in during the summer. They get paid through the State Employees Credit Union, not through the county. So it works out really well for us to get quality individuals, because they're being paid, to work for us all summer. And in most cases, it turns out that we get the chance to hire them, to bring them on as a weekend employee or a fill-in or things like that. So it's worked really well partnering with the university to do so. And I've encouraged other departments to look into partnering with them as well to bring in some additional help. So this comes from the Department of Transportation. They put out a report every 2 years, which they're getting ready to put out another one. but we're one of 62 publicly owned general aviation airports. We are one of 16 that is considered a regional business class airport. And that is the type of aircraft we have coming in there, the classification of jet that we can handle. So ONX provides direct access to North Carolina Outer Banks. This is the impact we have on the economy, at $9.4 million on the economic output. We provide 65 jobs here in the county of some sort. There's business owners that fly in and utilize our airport. So that's kind of what makes up that, along with all my crew of part-time employees. And then $413,000 in taxes. And they do classify as potential for growth at the airport. So I said earlier, we have international flights. So I know it's probably a little hard for you guys to see, but NC State actually does this study every year. And they pull all the IFR instrument flight plans, which every jet that comes into the airport files one of those. They pull all those reports and give us a map of where everybody's going. So you can see we do have a lot of stuff that's pretty quick hops. And then we've got this one that goes way down here. So that jet actually went out one day and came back the very next. Brought the passenger out of the country, and then they did have to stop in Wilmington to clear customs before they came to us. So in 2020, there were 722 operations. So those operations are IFR flight plans. Those are typically your jet aircraft. And then 2021, we had just over 1,000. And it does list, you can actually look this up on YouTube if you look up the ITRI report for ONX, and it gives you a little video, and it shows all the jets coming in and out. It's pretty neat. So they are in the process of doing another one of these that we'll hopefully see in the spring. So airport fuel sales. So I've got this awesome system that's really, really out of date, and I have to have a whole separate computer to use it. But I can pull reports from the beginning of the fuel farm. So I just went back a few years. Didn't want to make hundreds of slides of all the information we have. But in 2018, we did about 80,000 gallons of fuel that year. 2019, 86,000. 2020, 79. So you can see that trend there, right around 80,000 gallons. In the year of 2021, 150,000 gallons. And then this year to date, I completed this report last week, was 95,000 gallons. And I don't know if I'm jumping on my slides here, but in the month of July, we had 76 jets that landed at Currituck Airport. I counted those off of the receipts we had. Now in July, you guys approved to change some fees for us, so we changed our fee schedule. So there was probably about 10 jets that came in that we waived their fees because they're our regular customers. We see them weekly, and I hadn't given them the opportunity to know about our fees. So I said, you know what, this first time in, just know our fees have gone up. So, and that they don't care. They pay it anyways, but we want to give them a reason to come back and a reason, that we're giving them good customer service. I have a PowerPoint that tracks our fuel sales. It tracks our daily and weekly and monthly fuel sales. And then this just shows you kind of our busy days of the week. So Sundays on the left there and Saturday on the right. The weekend is the busiest time. People come in and out. Oddly enough, Wednesday is the third busiest day of the week. So we do suggest to our customers that they do not come in on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. That they come in during the week when the rest of the tourists aren't on their way down to enjoy the beach. They do appreciate that information if they're new to the area and they're calling us. So then gallons sold per month. So this just gives us a little bit of comparison of years past. We only started this information about a year and a half ago. That I got all my guys in on using the computer because that was they like their paper copy. They still have their paper copy, but I got them all interested in the computer, and they actually like it now because it becomes an exciting thing per month, and they talk junk back and forth on who sells the most fuel. So it is quite fun. So we do now have a way to track all flights coming into the airport. In 2020, the FAA mandated that all aircraft going into Class Charlie and Bravo airspace, which are your large airports, airspace, they had to have what's called ADS-B. It's a tracking system on all the airplanes. So most aircraft out there right now do have, I would say about 90% we're seeing come in that have ADSB. This system is at our airport, and it tracks the aircraft that are on the ground. Every time they start up, they've turned the power on to that airplane, it pings this data here. So this right here is, let's see, I've got the 1st through the 5th, so 5 days. We had 323 operations. So that makes up the takeoffs and the landings. So in 2 days, on Saturday and Sunday, we had 14 jets into the airport on the weekend of 4th of July. In years past, I only had one guy working that weekend, because in years past, 4th of July weekend was quiet. The week before, the week after is busy. Everyone's coming in before the 4th, leaving after. That weekend, I was surprised when I got the phone call saying, we're running out of room and you need to order a load of gas, because they sold 5,000 gallons in 2 days. So it was an awesome call, but I thought, man, I'd be mad if I was that employee to work by himself. Now, thankfully, we have a good group of locals, because they pitched in, and they did not want to call me to come in, which I would have happily done so, but they always hate to bother me on Saturday and Sunday. So I do commend that employee who did work, and he served every customer with a smile on his face, even though I don't think he sat down that day. So this is our operations for the year, for this year, 2022. So total operations was 8,427. That's takeoffs and landings. So we saw about 4,000 aircraft into the airport this year. That's from January till now. I had another slide in here that I think might not have made it of last year. We only did about 9,000 operations in the total year last year. So the traffic increased significantly. I will say that in talking with other airports in the area, that weekend of 4th of July, we had 14 jets in 2 days. The others in the area combined only had about 8. And that's counting 3 other airports. So I will say that last year we gained a lot of new customers because of the customer service that all of my employees give. There's one thing I tell them is you serve everybody with a smile on your face, and you let them know we'll do anything we can to help them get to where they need to be. And that comes into transportation sometimes. Sometimes rental cars don't show up. So if we can, we'll find someone to take them, or we'll take them ourselves to get to their destination. That is, they all land and they think, car didn't show up, let's get Uber out.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Good luck. I just raised my hand. I said, I'll find you somebody. So we'll find you an Uber driver. So this is kind of the cool part, and I love to share. These are the types of large aircraft that we get into the airport. So this Hawker 400 comes in at about $2 million to purchase. This Challenger 600 is $12 million. The Challenger the 600 is $27 million. The Challenger 301 is $12 million. Embraer Legacy 500 comes in at $22 million. This Gulfstream 200 there is actually a 280, $25 million. And then the Gulfstream, which most of you all saw when you got an airplane ride about it. I think it's been a year. My years are running together now, though. That came in at $65 million. And then we have our Gulfstream 4 G4, which is about $26 million. And then our Gulfstream 280 again, that comes in at $25 million. A couple more repeat pictures. So this one on the left is a Phenom. We get these in quite often through a charter company. And this is our old, you can see the little unit plugged in behind it. That's our old unit. We're able to purchase a new ground power unit to serve these aircraft that come in. So the one thing customer wants when they get there, they want the airplane on, air conditioned or heated, and they want it ready to go. They don't want to wait. They get out of their car, they get in the airplane, the door's shutting as our heels cross the threshold of the door, and that thing's starting up. So we provide them with charge. It costs. We do charge the companies, but a ground power unit. That ground power unit requires an employee, at least one, to operate. So they'll start one engine at a time, and when they're done, we'll disconnect the unit from them and then pull it away from the aircraft. Our new unit, much nicer. I don't worry about it cutting off while they're starting up. So, and then just a couple fun pictures of the cool small airplanes we get in. The one on the left there is a float plane. amphibious float plane. They were heading, this was, I think, right around December time, and they were heading from New York down to Florida to keep operating this thing and making money. The one on the right is a Corsair, which Paul knows about, and Paul may even know the guy that flew this in, but stop in for fuel. This one does training with the Navy. He acts as a target, and that's the other. Wasn't Sinbad, so one of his buddies. And then Commissioner Payment got to see this Osprey that came in at one of our meetings one day, happened to arrive, and one of our members of the community here, her son was actually on that aircraft and got to get out and give her a hug. He had been deployed for a while, so which was really neat. The bottom picture is a DC-3. And this had radial engines, so we couldn't fuel them on the truck. But you can see our side-by-side. We had to tug them back from the pumps there. So we had a good crowd. Didn't think we were going to be able to do that. But they came in and purchased hundreds of gallons of fuel to come out and do surveys at night. Really scary job. I wouldn't want to have it. So, and then lastly, I want to welcome everybody here in the county and all of our commissioners to come join us for Aviation Day. September 24th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're going to have live music, food vendors. The only thing that'll cost you money is the food vendors and if you want to pay for an airplane ride. The rest of the event's free. So it should be a fun day. We had an awesome weather last year, awesome turnout, and we're looking forward to another great year. That's all I have regarding the airport, but I would like to take a few minutes to share just a little bit about my year. The airport had a great year. I had an even better year. So my wife and I welcomed our first child into the world in April. I was actually on an airport conference trip when I got the call saying, I'm going in the hospital, don't rush, but you might want to get here. So worked my way home, and we had a baby 2 days later. So I want to thank the county, because I don't know any other job that would have been very supportive of that situation. 2 weeks early, the baby came. So I had nothing in place. My desk was a mess on my office, but I had members of staff calling to help me get things straight. So, and two individuals that I would like to thank personally is Leighton Earwood and Michelle Perry. They took care of me, took care of my payroll. Michelle paid all the airport's bills for a few months, even though I know she has more than enough on her plate. So, and I would like to thank the rest of the staff for the kind emails and text messages and gifts as well. So couldn't ask to work for a better county. So that's all I have. I will take questions about anything anyone has and go back to any slides that anyone wanted to see.
Two things.
Boy or a girl?
A girl. Magnolia is her name.
Oh, congratulations.
The county's very fortunate to have retained and have you as an employee. He's grown the airport. We're very lucky. Keep up the good work. And if you want to sign up Commissioner Etheridge for the face paint, I know he'd like to probably have that done as well. But no, you do a great job.
I will be there.
Keep up the good work.
So one of the things that I was very involved in the finances on the airport before you joined us. And to put things in perspective, we paid, i.e. the airport ran in the red to the tune of approximately $175,000 a year. Since William has joined us, that's now, I think, a net $250 to the positive. So over a $400,000 swing from where it was prior to William joining us to after William joined us. Part of that is, and we used to see, there was a Mitsubishi that used to be based out of Currituck, and he was a resident, and he'd go fly, and that's all great, and they're known for being very fuel efficient, which is great if you own it. It's not great if you're trying to sell them jet fuel. Pilots are an interesting breed, right? Because they talk. They always talk. And so as you're seeing this ramp up with the jets coming in, that's because the word's out. This is a great place to come in. A credit, my wife used to say, everybody's in business development. If you're the person that empties the trash can to the person that locks the doors at night, everybody's in business development. This growth is a credit to the staff and the job that you've done, because people that see happy, smiley faces, stuff always goes wrong in aviation all the time, and your staff is there to help them get through whatever needs to be done. And it's that kind of attention to detail that is a true credit to your leadership and what you've been able to done. We just love what you've done with the place. Anyway, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation.
And William, let me just again thank you. The growth that this we've seen with that airport, the potential growth that's planned, that's coming, is phenomenal for the county, and the residents should be proud and happy of what we have to offer, and you leading that way there. So again, thank you for that. And I'm sure you've talked to some new pilots coming in, new people. I'm sure they've made some comments. I don't know if you, what are some of the highlights or some of the, are they just didn't know we were here, or they just love it, or it's closer? Or?
It was they didn't know we were here. And again, customer service brings people back. Answering the phones, a polite voice on the other end, a voice that's going to help you whatever you need. Is it, we need to find a rental car, right? We're going to get you the right phone number. You need a hotel. Let's look them up. Let's find out what we have nearby. We can all use Google, and we do. We Google.
That wouldn't take long, by the way, looking up local hotels.
It doesn't. But
and how much do pilots talk to other pilots about other?
So we had a group that came in this summer. They were up in LaGuardia, and busy airport, right? Bunch of jets everywhere. They're sitting in the FBO. A couple guys, they're just shooting the breeze, and they said, "Where are you guys headed next?" They said, "Well, we're going to a little airport down in North Carolina, Currituck." And they said, "Oh, we've never been there." And they said, "Where are you guys headed?" They said, "Well, we're going to the Outer Banks." "Well, where are you going?" And then from there, we ended up getting both of the jets. They changed their mind. They said, it's a bigger runway, longer runway. We offer the same facilities everyone else does. So we gain customers like that. We also, one of the big things is our weather down here. Right? We don't know what it is going to be day to day. Even the weatherman doesn't know what it's going to be. So if it's wet or windy, they're coming to us. They need that extra room. They can't go into other airports surrounding us that have smaller runways. So we gain those customers when they come in. Their airplane got diverted, and their rental cars down in Manio, or it's down, it's over in Elizabeth City, and they're coming in on a Friday at 5 o'clock. They don't know what they're going to do. They can't get a hold of the rental car companies. The only person they can get on the phone is me, and we're going to find them some transportation. We're going to get them to their rental car. So that's where we coordinate. We have a good relationship with other airports. So where I can call and get a hold of them and say, hey, leave their keys out so we can get them their rental cars. So now they become a Currituck County flyer, because they say, if we can get in here, why would we risk getting in, not being able to get in somewhere else? So that's one of the pilots' talk. So the other thing we did this year is we made these hats and T-shirts. And I give these out to pilots that come in. I give them out to passengers, because that's the best advertisement you can have. And most of the time we look, to hand them out when you see somebody comes in with a hat on, and you want to give it to that person because you want that hat to be an advertisement. You want them to wear it. And everyone I've given it to that has come back, and we've seen them again, they're wearing the hat, and they also say, this is really nice because everyone knows ORF, Norfolk, RDU, right, Raleigh. What is ONX? So then they get the explanation, and it's right under it. It says it right underneath the ONX there. So it's a great conversation piece. Where is ONX? And then they get to explain it. So that's been, I had two pilots that came in last week. Both of them had on an ONX hat. I was putting chocks under the airplanes with the guys, and I look up, and they both had their hats on. They had been in a month prior.
And they'll absolutely do that.
They'll wear them until that khaki is no longer khaki anymore.
And
so,
you had people from, was it Germany?
We
that
did.
Sent you a selfie with wearing.
Had a couple young ladies, a whole family. There was 18 of them. The young ladies wanted a T-shirt. So the guys called me and said, "Can we?" I said, "Absolutely." So then I get an email a couple of days later of them getting off the jet in Germany, and they were all wearing their T-shirts. So really neat. And you wouldn't. And we had some gentlemen that came from Argentina about a month ago. They were headed up to Oshkosh, big fly-in, biggest fly-in there is. Their aircraft broke down when they landed at Currituck. So thankfully, we have a great working relationship with College of the Albemarle, who trains mechanics. So we called down there and asked one of the instructors to come down and help them out. And they had just flown their twin piston aircraft, small airplane, all the way from Argentina. They worked their way up because they came up our eastern coast to get all the way out to Oshkosh because they wanted to stop at first flight. And we're the fuel stop after first flight for just about everyone, because they don't sell fuel at first flight. So the airplane broke down. We got them a mechanic. They figured it out. They found somebody that could help them. They ended up having to put a new motor on this airplane. This has taken some of our tenants who have been overhauling and putting new motors on their aircraft 6 months. They found him a motor, and they have hung it, and it's getting ready to go now. So 1 month, they figured it out. These gentlemen that got off this airplane were the kindest people I've ever met. And I gave them, they were heading to Oshkosh, and anybody that came through that week that was getting fuel to go to Oshkosh, we gave them a hat and a T-shirt. I said, you're about to be around thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people and pilots. What better place to advertise than that? So I gave them a hat and a T-shirt, and I have never seen such gratitude. You would have thought I gave them $1 million. They were so excited to have their hat and T-shirt to carry to Oshkosh. So that's what we're doing to try to get our word out. Very, very small, but try to grow at a small pace, because we can only grow but so big with what we have, which will be something we do bring as our ALP, Airport Layout Plan, is at the FAA right now for approval. Once it gets completed there, we'll have hopefully a work session at some point just to share with you what the goal and the vision of the airport is with all the studies that we've done with our traffic. And that's those things that we've talked about in there and that we'd like to do over the next 10 and 15 years is what we need to handle the type of traffic we're getting.
So one of the final things was, and I got to see the Gulfstream 650 that flew in. It would have added more fuel, but it's limited to 99,000 pounds for takeoff. And that's based on runway length, I believe.
Which is, they couldn't even get near their max weight because our runway weight does not allow it. So they could only take on the minimum fuel to get out.
So that's the type of upgrades that
we're looking
at right now.
So, runway rehab and re-strengthening, terminal building. So, because currently we don't meet the state requirements for our terminal building. It's less than 2,500 square feet, and we're supposed to be at 5,500 square feet. So those are the things that we're looking at in the future to find funding for. And one of the great things about most of the airport projects is that they're 90% funded. So the county, anyone that looks and thinks, wow, the county's wasting a lot of money on the airport, we're getting a lot for our 10%. So which is really good. The other big thing we're in design on right now is our fuel farm. What makes us money. Our fuel farm is original, I believe, from the early 90s and is in dire need of replacement. So we're working with the Division of Aviation right now for approval on all the funds to make that happen, because it is quite expensive to install a new fuel farm. We're also going to be relocating that fuel farm to where our goal and vision of where the new terminal building will be in the next several years, and where our expansion will be for the airport, apron, and things like that to handle the jets and the traffic that we get. Because on a day and 2 days we get 14 jets. When you all come out for Aviation Day, you'll see that there's not a whole lot of room for all that, especially when everyone shows up at the same time.
Oh,
So-
one of the other things I'm going to throw out is the thought of jets coming into the airport may sound concerning, because of everyone pictures Boeing 707s or whatever coming in. Most of the jets that we're seeing at the airport are business jets, and they have very strict, their noise attenuation is significant. They are quiet typically coming in, and they're pretty darn quiet going out. They're not, military jets, and so they're a lot quieter, I think, in many times than some of the other aircraft that we typically see. So
They definitely are. I get zero complaints about the jets because the only departures they have is straight out. They depart straight out until they're above 4,000 or 5,000 feet. Wouldn't bother a soul. The biggest complaints I get is the military. And typically the H-53, the big helicopter, it rattles my teeth in my office. When I'm on the phone or on a conference call, I have to apologize because it's so loud. People are wondering what in the world is going on in his office. But those are the complaints I get, and then our typical crop dusters, that they fly low, they're loud. But I will say I've seen a lot of positive things about our crop dusters, which is good to see, because they are serving our farmers in the area to help them continue to grow a good crop. So,
Let me say, as someone, when I came on this board, where the airport was at that time,
Okay, well, we're going to come back in session here, and the next item is new business, new business A, an ordinance of the Currituck County Board of Commissioners amending Chapter 8, Article 3, Section 9-71 972, 973, and 974 of the Currituck County Code and Ordinances. And I believe it's going to be our county attorney is going to be doing this this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's going to be hard to follow that wonderful presentation about the airport, but I'll do my best on this ordinance amendment. Okay, so this amendment deals with Chapter 9, Article 3, which is our nuisance ordinance, specifically the uncontrolled growth of noxious weeds or grass. Now, before, that was not defined, so that could be anything, really. And so what I met with code enforcement to get their input on what they thought would be a good idea as far as what that would be. And we decided 12 inches if the lot contains some kind of structure, 18 inches, this is for grass, if it's a vacant lot, does not include land for active farming or woodlands. So that's kind of what we thought would be a great idea. The next big thing was how are we going to enforce this? So usually they send out a letter, and then if it gets to me, demand letter. But we can't just go out and, especially without their consent, and go mow their grass and then attach a lien to their property. We have to go through the proper court procedure. So I clarified that in here. Basically, you have to file a complaint for injunctive relief, and you have to get a court order from a judge to be able to do that if it gets that far. So I just clarified that point and took out any language where we just go on the property. And also there's a provision in the general statutes on a chronic violator. And so that's a person who owns property in the previous calendar year. The county gave notice of the violation at least 3 times. And so at that point, if they've done that, they don't need to provide any further notice to go and remedy whatever that violation may be. So I added that in there, and I think that's mainly it. So, of course, this
we had
is,
some deletions as too, you said? Yeah, on page 10, so we took some stuff out and added some stuff. Is that what?
yes,
Okay.
yes. So since this is an ordinance amendment, it would require a unanimous vote from the board if you do choose to pass this.
Okay, is there any questions from the
I want
board?
to just close. Probably a decade ago, my company used to do some of the code enforcement work. I don't do it anymore. I think I might have done one property 5 years ago, but I'm not on that vendor list. Don't want to be on it. So don't plan on being on it. So I want to disclose that for the conflict of interest. So if anybody's watching at home, I'm not on that vendor list. Don't plan on being on it.
Okay.
Just wanted to disclose that.
So in summary, this just cleans it up and makes it more, people understand really what.
Yes, it clarifies things
Okay.
and makes sure we're following the lawful procedure to abate.
So Owen, if you leave a farmer field or leave a field fallow for a year, how tall will the grass get?
As high as this dais.
18 inches is not,
But it doesn't count for farming.
it said
They're
active farming,
exempt.
so define active farming.
Yeah.
Well, we can take that language out if you
I'm just
choose
saying,
to
in
do
one
so.
year, you'll have material that'll get 3 feet high.
That language, I believe, was taken out of some other ordinances that have included this, but I mean, that's a good point. If you want to take that out, we certainly can do that.
Not now.
When we, excuse
I'm
me.
sorry, go ahead.
When we first enacted this ordinance, we had to publish a notice in the advance. Is that not a requirement any longer?
No.
Because it figured up it would cost more to publish it and get it to where the county could actually go in and cut it than it would be to leave it alone.
No, as long as we provide them with notice, and it would, basically, we would have to institute a lawsuit, file a complaint in district court for an injunction to be able to do that, but no publication, like in the newspaper or anything like that, unless it's like a
Owen?
tax foreclosure.
Is there instances where you would let a field go fallow on purpose for a year? I mean, so that would still be considered active, right?
Well,
I mean, there's an intended.
I think, okay, so let me give you another example. I decide I want to grow trees in a vacant lot, right? I guess what I'm suggesting is I would exempt ag, land zoned agriculture.
So you're talking about where it says this definition does not include land use for active farming or woodlands. You say that doesn't clarify it enough?
No, because, I mean, it depends, right? Active farming, I'm actively trying to grow trees in that lot. Okay.
Then that would be woodlands.
Not yet. My point is, now you're in is it active farming? Is it active, am I growing? All I'm saying is, it's somewhat vague. Anyway.
So,
I mean, the original purpose to me was you're living in a neighborhood and your grass is so high, there's everything living in it, right? That was the original nuisance, if I remember correctly, and that's what we're trying to avoid, right? Not the North 40 that you let grow up, habitat for rabbits, et cetera, which I'm just saying.
Well, another example is you log it,
Right.
you reseed it, but it's going to be 3 or 4 years before your seedlings get up tall enough.
But I think
to-
she could say that's
Active
woodlands, right?
farming.
That's
And
woodlands.
that's
Active.
tree farming.
So for all purposes, with the residential side, this pretty much covers it.
Residential
Residential
side,
side, yes,
It's
so-
the ag that would be.
I don't.
Well, I mean, our complaints are for the residential
Yeah.
neighborhoods is what we're trying to clean up, right?
Residential or vacant lots. I would like
Yeah.
to say one thing, like from June 10th to September 10th, and you'll have it, the Bahia grass, which is the stalk that grows up with the two little things, they can become 18 inches
A couple hours.
in 72 hours. I mean, I don't know.
So there's an aspect of, right, it smells like a duck, waddles like a duck. I mean, it is obvious when a lot is
Not being maintained.
potentially being considered or would be considered a nuisance, right? You got a house with a yard beside it, house on the other side, yard beside it, and yours, you can't even see the front porch.
There's two Camaros.
And I understand that that's what we're trying to get to. But if we don't put constraints, right, we're complaint driven, right? So-and-so didn't cut their north field last week, next thing you know, the doorbell's.
So does this have like a time frame? Like say if it's 18 inches for 3 weeks or 2 weeks, or I don't know. I mean, do we need to, I mean, that would give people time to cut it?
Well, you
I don't
have
know, I'm
30
asking,
days
I
to
don't
cure, right? If you have a notice of violation, there's a 30-day cure in here, I believe.
Okay,
Yes,
so,
that's correct.
So
so it has a time frame in it anyway.
yeah, yeah.
And if you clear within 30
In the-
days, it
yes,
come back and
in
goes
the
away.
Procedure, yes.
Oh, okay, well then, okay.
And we got the 12 and 18, like I said, meeting with code enforcement, but also looking at several different counties and kind of how they define the same thing. And this was kind of an average we found. But of course, it could be different.
So when they get a violation, within 30 days, they cut the grass,
Yes.
it just goes away.
The number one violator of it when we enacted it originally were banks that had foreclosed on properties and nobody was there to take care of.
Right.
And they weren't maintaining it.
And we're getting ready, I think, to look at possibility of that occurring again.
Okay, well, I mean, but this would send a notice to the banks and.
Yeah, they're notorious.
Again, this covers residential for the most part. That's the intended purpose. So if a farmer's going to fallow, I'm sure if you send them a notice, they're going to come back and say that's in purpose. We're going to till that in later. We're using it for whatever. I mean,
So if we enact this tonight, then if 2 months or a year
99% of
later,
the stuff.
we could modify it again if we had to for
Right.
something else.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Well, I think it's going to be pretty hard for the code enforcement officers to tell where there's 12 inches of grass and 18 because the sides of the road are
yeah. Can we
30.
Can we violate NCDOT? They said they're partners and everything, right?
Good point.
Selena's got good report.
They'll be down there picking out sand spurs on their
So-
hands and knees, getting them out of there unacceptable weeds.
Up in Shawboro, when you're coming out, you cannot even see down the road. The grass is so high. When are they cutting again?
I know that September 26th, they're going to be cutting in Corolla, so they told us. I think it was the 26th.
You need to, really, in Schaumburg, where the intersection is, you cannot see.
Well, we had an email from another part of the county someone sent.
All right, well, does the board have any other questions? I think, what we tried to do is put some heights in here and clean this up a little bit to get a little bit more enforceability to this. So this would be a good, starting document, and then
I'd like to see ag exempted.
any ag piece of property.
Well, and I'll give you an example.
Well, there's
where-
houses on ag.
Sir?
There's houses on ag.
Oh, I know, but typically, like 1 acre is designated from a county zoning perspective. 1 acre carries the residential piece with the house, and then the rest is considered ag, typically.
Yeah, they could have 2 acres for horse pasture.
That's correct.
Well, yeah, but again, it's ag. I mean, if you're it's hay. It's
But this
grown.
doesn't say ag, this
Would
says
that,
active farming.
Well, which would be considered an agricultural activity.
wouldn't that fall into
Go
the
to
farming
definitions.
aspects of it?
Now you're dealing with an
Or
agricultural activity.
you could say bona fide farm, that is a term that's defined.
In the general
In the statutes.
10 acres.
Right.
So just add the word bona fide, an active bona fide farm, is that?
Your terms, your glossary terms,
Okay.
not associated with this, but in the code of ordinances, you
Oh,
glossary
you
of
can look
terms
up the definition.
to define different things. So, I'm just
I do have a question about noxious weeds. Because there's certain species of weeds that are classified by USDA and NCDA and Extension as noxious that won't grow 18 inches tall.
Like I said, Bahia grass will grow 18 inches tall in 70
Right.
hours.
yeah, but you
Johnson
can tell
grass.
it's
Well,
Staff's not gonna know the difference.
yeah.
Our staff's not gonna
gonna
know
look
the
like
different
that
type of
lot down
weeds
there.
out there.
That lot down on Popple Branch where the guys moved out between your neighborhood, the 2 inches. Have you seen that house? Those guys moved out, and there's a lawnmower sitting back there, rotting lawnmower.
Certain grass is noxious.
Yeah.
It don't
this
grow.
just adds a little more objectivity as opposed to just, there's no definition at all, just trying to decide based on just looking whether it constitutes noxious weeds or grass.
Yeah, how many calls do we get about the farmers' fields are not growing or, I mean, it's all residential and or business related for the most part.
On occasion, we will get calls from
Right,
residences that are next to
right.
No farmland.
Or
agricultural.
sometime, like you said, it's at the end of it. At the end where they farm everything, but then by the road, there might be a
They
small
haven't cut
spot.
that little spot by the
Yeah.
ditch, right. I mean,
So right now, if we don't put any of this, some stipulations on height or anything like that, I mean,
It's just
somebody
wide
can
open.
challenge us as wide open. Well, where does it say I have a certain height restriction? Is that pretty much right now? So
That's correct.
this just
That's-
gives us some.
That's
little bit
correct, yes.
Okay.
And clarifies the proper procedure to abate the nuisance.
Well, my suggestion is that we adopt this tonight to give us some starting point with this. And then if we need to adjust it again, I mean, we can always fine tune anything.
No.
That's your motion?
Owen is
No,
the-
I'm throwing it out there
well,
just to get some quick.
Owen is the ag guy in the room.
Yeah.
Do you really see anything major that you're worried about as a farmer? I mean, really?
I want it to be specific because we don't want to leave anything to interpretation by somebody 3 or 4 years down the road.
Okay.
But right now, there's a lot of interpretation as been right now, as it's been right for a long time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's wide open.
I don't think the point is, do we like what we have now? I think we all agree that that's not doing it.
Okay.
But, if we don't get it, I mean, I know there's so many things that, well, if that doesn't work, we'll tweak it down the road. Well, we wind up tweaking it down the road, whereas if we get it right, or at least closer here, then it.
Okay, do we
anyway.
know what we need to clean up? Do we have specific items? We don't, right now? All right, how long is it gonna take us to get these items, Owen, do you think, to get
You
clarification?
can
on
just
some of
say active farms.
And that'll clear everything up?
That's what
It
it
says.
says right now.
So it says active
Does
farming.
not
active
include use for
farming.
active farming or woodlands.
What about active farms? Like he said, if you took a year off of that land for
Still
some.
farming.
Still a farm.
Still a bona fide
But somebody
farmer.
could say they're not actively farming.
Well, therein lies the problem, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're going to have some guy say,
That's why I asked the question, is there a reason
Yes.
to let a field go fallow? Yes, he's not farming this year, but we're going to turn that material over and use it to produce more nitrogen for the soil.
but would the county, would that be, the county attorney and county manager, would that be a justifiable response for a farmer?
I think so.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, I may ask Commissioner Etheridge,
Yeah.
do all farms register with the Farm Services Agency?
Pretty much.
I mean, that might be one way to more specifically zero in. If it's registered with the Farm Services Agency, then it's deemed to be active farming.
Is that only certain acres, though? I mean, I'm
Minimum
just
10, I
asking.
think.
I think 10 is your bona fide status, right?
A state statute.
Yeah.
So we could put bona fide in there and clean it all up? Oh, no, I don't.
It's farming.
1C,
The definitions are
9711.
No, I know. I mean, if you look up farming,
I
I'm not a
would,
farmer, so. I
if
don't
we
know.
want to go with this language, I would strike active and just say farming. Used for farming or woodlands.
There you go.
Owen, are you good
Go with
with
that?
that? Just strike active?
I like that better now, too.
All right, so, okay.
Welcome very much.
Is that a motion?
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Well, I'll make the motion that we adopt this, the ordinance
He just made
Did
the
you-
motion.
Need a second now, baby.
Second.
with what changes in it again?
Striking
Active.
All right, have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion second, any other further discussions?
Oh, she did?
You know what?
I'm
We
sorry,
have a motion.
I'll take my second back.
I took my motion back, so.
Right, so there we
All right, so we have a motion and a second, any further discussions on this?
Please go
All
ahead.
in favor? Aye. All opposed, passes unanimously, thank
All
you.
right.
Okay.
It's always the simple stuff.
The next item on the resolution supporting Operation Green Light for Veterans, I believe County Attorney has this one. Oh, County Manager this time.
Well, this was brought to the board, I think, by Commissioner Jarvis, who picked up this information from either NACO or County
Both
Commissioners.
NACO and NCACC are really behind this, and we discussed kind of the idea behind it. The green light would be for Veterans Day, the week of Veterans Day, to shine a light on our veterans and hopefully soon-to-be veterans that are retiring and moving to our area, to know that this is a county that supports them and endeavors to increase and improve the quality of their life. I think I reached out to NCACC yesterday to see if they had more information on the partnership between Lowe's. No word back, but I will forward that response as soon as I get it. They did on NACO's website talk about several different ways to make the green light, and that included wrapping existing lights in green, like cellophane or something like that. Of course, lighting itself to be able to support it. So whatever it takes, I think we should get on board and adopt the resolution because I think it's important to shine that light on our veterans.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the resolution.
A motion is second from Commissioner Owen Etheridge. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries. The next item is the Social Services Board appointment. I believe Mary Etheridge has a nomination.
Yes, we've had a board member who, for some reason, decided they would resign from our board because
Man.
she took a better job as our county attorney.
Can you get her back? Can you get her back?
So she'll still be there occasionally.
So I would like to nominate Janet McCloskey to fill the unexpired term.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, a motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. The next item is our consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and at this time, I'll recess from our regular meeting and move into the special meeting of Tourism Development Authority, and I believe we have some TDA budget amendments we have to get approved. And I'll ask the
$10,000.
County manager, if we can just kind of go through that real quick.
Well, it's a transfer of funds
Pay for these.
into promotional efforts for the airport.
Okay, any further discussions?
No, so we got these good hats.
Yep, all right.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
All right, a motion. Second from Commissioner Jarvis. Any further discussions? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. This time I'll ask for motion to adjourn from our TDA.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? And I'll convene at this time into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11, A3 to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and NCGS 143-318.11, A5 to establish or to instruct county staff concerning the position to be taken by the county in negotiating the price or other material terms of a contract for purchase of real property for property located at 2878 Currituck Highway owned by Daniel W. Humphreys.
That should be in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
That was my motion.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. All right. Take a few minutes for everybody.